It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Prime.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Dottino and Matt CItak with you for the next hour to discuss more comings and goings. They just continue to pour in each and every day. The Giants have been busy. Our phone number, 201-939-4513, 201-939-4513. Hashtag Giants Chat if you want to go to social media. Remember, the program is also streamed, simulcast, if you will, on YouTube, the New York Giants page on YouTube, and you can always get it also on the Giants mobile app. If you don't catch the show live, an archive is available with our entire podcast network on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at Giants.com/podcasts. We come to you from the Giants podcast studio presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And, well, Matt, speaking of getting better, the Giants certainly continue to improve their roster. Folks, I must confess, I did not think they would be this active. I just did not. Certainly not this soon. But they continue to make news each and every day. Jordan Schultz, I believe, of Fox Sports, correct, on the digital side?
I think so.
He has been phenomenal in terms of tracking down reports and getting information about things that have supposedly been agreed to. He did it again. He just keeps hitting the finish line before everybody else. Yesterday, Steelers receiver, or former Steelers receiver, I should say, Calvin Austin. That was something that happened since yesterday's show ended. Earlier today, a lot of published reports have come out about Jason Pinnock. Again, we're talking about, and I didn't make up that jingle yet, but I gotta get some music for it. According to published reports, physicals have not yet been taken, but supposedly there are agreements in place. How about that? I know the nomenclature is a little bit wacky there. Maybe I did it a little backwards, but those are the proper words that need to be said, as you guys already know. Also, the Giants announcing the signings yesterday, Art Green or Darius Washington, and Stinney. Stinney's an interesting one because, you know, we were just talking the other day, Matt, that the Giants still needed to deal with some significant shortages at the offensive line spot and also at wide receiver. So we saw Evan Neal decided to come back. We see Aaron Stinney decides to come back. Those are certainly capable NFL bodies that are in the mix. So the depth is better than what it was. And Austin signing makes the depth at wide receiver better than what it was. And, oh, yeah, by the way, Greg Newsome II also put pen to paper earlier this morning, but you guys already knew all about that. It's clear to me, and I know you feel a little differently, but the need component at pick number 5 in this draft is lessened as far as I'm concerned. Best player available, to me, has got to be the song of the day. I appreciate the need component may still be in there. I just think it's lessened.
I mean, look, it's certainly lessened since, this time last week. There's no doubt about that. But I still think it's there at certain positions. I mean, Calvin Austin, he's this reported deal, he's going to come in and try to compete for a spot on the roster. It's not like he's coming in and he's, would be established as one of the starting wide receivers. And obviously, as you mentioned, with Aaron Stinney and Evan Neal, those are depth pieces at best. Again, I don't even know if those two are, any of these three that we just said are, 100% guaranteed locks to make the roster. So
true.
Just because you added depth pieces, I don't think that makes, a starting level offensive guard or a starting caliber wide receiver any less of a need than it was a week ago. I still think those positions are areas that need to be addressed. Again, that could be all of the action that's happened over the last 5 days. This is the first. Maybe we're getting into the beginning of the second wave of free agency. Mm-hmm. There are multiple more waves to come. We're going to slowly see more free agent signings.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
that's all right.
It's supposed to be plugged in, but I guess.
Yeah, Pearson came in the other day when the battery died, and then he found like there was a electrical way to make it work. And he flicked the button and did something, and then all of a sudden the electricity came back on, and we were up and running. He didn't even change the battery.
We're back.
We are back. How about that? Okay, folks, a momentary brownout, if you will. I don't know if it was from a power surge or whatever it was, but we were temporarily knocked off the air. To the point that we were discussing, it was how much does the need component still weigh into maybe the number 5 pick? I think there are 2 questions here, Matt. And I had this issue with John the other day, and I don't think either one of us were very clear about what the other guy was saying. The need component at 5 can be at a different level than the need component over the remainder of the draft. Those can be 2 totally separate equations.
I think they are separate equations for sure.
I believe that.
They 100% is. But
and I think that's where John and I had a disconnect. I was talking about the number 5 pick, which has in my mind a little bit of a different percentage on it. But the rest of the draft, I do feel as though, there's a significantly less. Because here's the thing. You talked about a moment ago before the camera went dead. You were talking about starting play, right? You said, well,
starting caliber players.
Right.
Yeah.
These guys who are coming in are not necessarily frontline starting caliber players.
I said they're not even, necessarily 100% locks to make the final 53 or the initial 53.
And that's agreed. No doubt. But here's the thing. If you have a very thin spot on your roster where you're looking for frontline caliber players, chances are your depth players probably are tissue paper thin as well. So if you add some tissue paper to that previous tissue paper, you're helping your depth chart at those spots, and in fact, you are fortifying the depth. One way or the other, if you want to be a really good team, you not only have to have frontline starters, but you have to have better depth.
No doubt about it. But you still need the, front end starting caliber level guys. And there's still a few positions where I think that's kind of lacking. I still think offensive guard, you have John Runyon and you have John Michael Schmitz on the interior, but that starting right guard spot as of right now, it would be a competition between the 2 guys that were just announced the last couple of days, and Stinney and Evan Neal, probably.
Or maybe Marcus Bowe.
Or, that's true. Marcus Bowe, I will say, obviously, we don't know how the coaching staff feels about him terms of what position, if they think he's ready to compete for a starting spot, if he's, maybe they have him penciled in to be the swing tackle based on his performance this past season. We have no idea. So I will give you that. That is a possibility, but that's still a position where I think you could afford to, and there are still numerous very good starting caliber guards on the market. That is one position where you haven't seen too much action, and you were starting to get to the point of free agency where guys might start taking deals that are would be considered a little bit more team friendly. The first couple of days of free agency are definitely more, I would say, player friendly, more money typically. And then as you get further on, the guys that are remaining, they tend to sometimes then take deals that are slightly more team friendly. Maybe that's the direction the Giants are, looking towards. I'm not going to go through the list, but there are still some numerous, starting caliber guards available on the market. So that's one position. I don't think the addition or the reported addition from Jordan Schultz of Calvin Austin, I don't think that, means the Giants are now set at wide receiver. I think wide receiver is still very much in play at number 5.
Oh, sure.
Especially because, again, Malik Neighbors is coming back from a serious knee injury. All the reports early, the optimism is that he will be ready, hopefully, for training camp, but it's not guaranteed. And even if he's ready for training camp, chances are he may not look like, the Malik that we are used to seeing until later in the season. So I think wide receiver is still very much in need. I will say linebacker, slightly less of a need, like you were saying at the start of the show, between Tremaine Edmonds and Micah McFadden. It's a solid 1-2 punch. I still think you could add more to that. I don't think that those two additions means, Sonny Styles is out of the question at 5 by any means. I think he's still very much in play there.
I agree with every single thing you've just said. This is not a debate.
But the positions that we thought about, I would say there are a couple of positions now that aren't quite as much of a need at 5 as they were a week ago, but there's still numerous positions that kind of are of need. Wide receiver, guard. I think he could still, afford to potentially bring in another corner to at least compete for that starting spot next to Greg Newsome, or with Greg Newsome, next to Paulson Adebo. Linebacker, you could still add someone at that position, starting caliber, defensive tackle. Like, there are still positions that I think are needs. And I would say, especially wide receiver and potentially even guard. I know guard, the 5th pick on a guard is, considered to be sort of rich in the whole positional value debate, but that is still very much a starting caliber position of need.
You're creating a debate that's not there. What the point is, at 5, you can now overly stress best player available. That's the point.
But that's what you always want to do.
Well, that's
nothing has changed.
That's the way I feel.
Nothing has changed in the last week about that, except potentially linebacker.
See, that's the way,
only position.
That's the way I feel. I've always been best player available. That's the way I always lean. That is a very heavy.
Every single general manager will tell you that you want to go into the draft with that capability, but obviously most of the time you're not allowed to do that.
But there are situations where teams will start to put the need component a little bit in there. They'll push guys up, and they'll wind up doing something they shouldn't do. The point is really simple. The Giants right now, it really comes down to what we thought about a month ago. If Downs is there, if Styles is there, if Tate is there, whichever guy has the higher grade, that's the guy they should take. Because you know what? If they want to take a wide receiver in round 2 at 37, they could put it off to 37 and still get a quality receiver who's going to help this team. They could get a quality offensive lineman if they want to wait till 37, and they don't have to push one of these O-linemen up to 5. They can wait to 37.
You're just taking a big step down in the caliber of player you're taking, obviously, between 5 and 37. And again, there's
not
still
a guard. There's one guard who's going to be. There's only he's the
Penn
only
State
guard
who is considered to be like one of the best interior line prospects.
He's not a
since
5.
Quentin Nelson.
He's not a 5.
I literally just said before, 5 would be rich for a guard.
Right.
He's the only guard. And again, I don't know if any team is looking to trade up now, because the two teams I thought would maybe want to trade up for Jeremiah Love were the Saints and Chiefs, and they both went out and signed top tier running back. So I don't know about the trade down situation in the first round, but guard is still very much in need. I'm not saying you need to force a guard at 5th overall,
right?
Of course, but it's still very much in need. I wouldn't put it past.
No one's disagreeing with that.
You said that the you said the moves made this week lessen the need at positions, and I'm saying linebacker is
5.
At 5,
at
I'm saying
5, it lessens the need at 5.
Other than the signings of Tremaine Edmonds and Micah McFadden, what other signings lessen the need of that position with the 5th overall pick?
Quite frankly, to me, Sonny Styles is much more in play because they've got 2 backers right now on the inside. If they believe that Styles' grade is appropriate for the 5th pick, that is a much easier pick to make right now, because you have done something to help your depth at wide receiver, and you can push that back to 37 if you want. You can absolutely push the guard back to 37 if you want, rather than forcing a guard at 5, unless they fully believe that Ioane is that good that he is the 5th pick. It's really simple. You're talking in circles here. You're creating a debate that's not a debate.
I was just going based off of what you said, and I'm asking you that.
Yeah, but you're not.
The moves that were made this week.
You're not understanding
Paul, the
clearly
moves,
enough what I'm talking about.
I'm understanding completely what you're saying. The moves that were made this week. What positions have been addressed where you're saying it's not a need at 5 anymore? Based on the moves made over the last 4 days, that's what you said.
It's not that there's not a need. What they have done is they've evened the playing field much more than what it was, to where they can really, really heavily weigh the overall grade.
But
in other words,
some of the moves that you pointed out in support of this was Aaron Stinney, Evan Neal, the reported deal of Calvin Austin. And again, I don't know
there's stuff we don't know.
But I don't know how you're talking about guys that are like potential, as we said before, not even 100% locks to be the team, to make the team. How those additions are now all of a sudden making it less of a need.
Because when you don't have starter guys, chances are you probably have even less at depth.
We're not talking about the depth, though. We're talking about starters.
Never mind. 201-939-4513.
Those are fine depth pieces. We're talking about starters.
No, you're talking about starters. I'm talking about the 53.
With the 5th pick, that's what you need. You're looking for a starter. You're not looking for someone as a depth piece. I don't give a horse's rat's butt about a starter. I care about an impact player, not just a starter. How many impact players are not starters?
All right, it is what it is. Folks, I'm sorry we confused you. He just wants the debate. That's okay. 201-939-4513.
I'm just calling you out on what you're saying.
You just don't understand what I'm saying.
I understand
but that's
fully
okay.
what you're saying. I don't know if you do.
Let's go to the phones. 201-3. All of a sudden, you're going to want to be like Lance now. Marvin, Coach Marvin in Delaware. You're up first on the show. Hello.
How you guys doing? How you doing, Matt and Paul?
Good, Coach. How are you?
I'm okay. Matt, I agree with everything you say, but stop. Y'all speaking different languages, but you're saying the same thing.
That's
everything
the point.
Paul is saying is exactly what you're saying. You're just saying it in a different manner.
Right.
And you said... Oh, go ahead. You had something to say?
No, Coach Marvin, I'm glad you see it clearly. We really do mean the same thing. He's just coming at it from a different way and trying to cause a problem.
Yeah,
go ahead, Coach.
Same thing. Right. Matt, you said, what position does it make it less? And he's talking about that 5th overall pick, and you're both saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. But one thing it does eliminate, you don't have to take Mawanoa or any of those guys. They're off the books with your signing of a tackle. So if you want to say which position, I would say the tackle can be off the board for now.
Sure.
For the 5th pick.
Sure.
That's totally fair. I agree with that.
So I can see that. But I'm not disagreeing with you, man. I'm just trying to say we're saying the same thing. You just listening to the words, and I understand that too, how it's coming out. But it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
All right, Coach.
What you got?
Well, was the Evan Neal thing. I hear a lot about that, and people kind of like, oh, I'm shocked. He should be gone. He this and that. And as a new coach, and you're coming in and you have guys, and there's sometimes there are guys that everybody may be down on, but you may see something that they don't see. And I think Harbaugh sees something that we don't see. And there may be something that this guy was picked in the 6th or 7th, somewhere like that. So he does have some talent. Can you tap into that talent in your system? And maybe you could, give him a shot at it. He was a big enough man to sign back with them. I don't know if he had any other signing, but that showed a lot. Now he has some people in the building, and if I'm the coach, I would tell him to spend time with Jermaine Illuminor in his story, because they're almost similar.
Well, Coach, I think the two things to keep in mind about Evan Neal, number one, it's obvious that Harbaugh must see something there that he can resuscitate, because he's got so much clout right now on this roster. If he did not think so, I'm sure that Evan Neal would not be back in the building. We can agree on that. Yes, absolutely. Sure. Right? That's obvious. I don't even think we have to state that. Harbaugh's influence is strong right now. So he must believe there's something there. That's number one. Number two, Neal is fully healthy from what we understand when he ended the season at his locker. He had said to me that he was fully ready to go, have a full off-season program, which, as you know, he hadn't really had since he became a Giant. There was always something that was working on him.
Yeah.
It was a surgery. It was this. It was that. It was whatever malady. There was always something wrong with him physically. He's now in the healthiest time of his career. So, just maybe, as we now have also learned, is it LaCharles Bentley's class he went to? Did you see that?
I did not.
He went to an offensive line school. He rolled himself in an offensive line school. I think it was LaCharles Bentley's school, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, which John Jerry had done when he left the Dolphins and came to the Giants, and everybody said, well, John Jerry, he's a journeyman, he can't play. He actually came here and was functional. He played pretty well for the Giants when he was here, and nobody expected it. So that shows some initiative on Neal's part, that he truly does want to save his career and get better. And that school, again, I think it's LaCharles Bentley School, is renowned around the country for doing wonders with offensive linemen. So maybe those two things together helps Evan Neal become productive.
Yeah, but Coach, I think you're exactly right that he does not need to look far. Jermaine Illuminor was a journeyman offensive lineman for years in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's spoken many times about how he had to take 1 year deal after 1 year deal after 1 year deal until he finally signed the first 2 year deal with the Giants and now just re-upped for another multi-year deal. So Evan doesn't need to look far to see, you know, a good influence on, you know, just because your career didn't start the way you wanted it to as an offensive lineman doesn't mean that that's how it's got to go for the rest of your time. You know, he could turn things around now. And, you know, I'm not going to pretend like I was, you know, part of these or a privy to any of the negotiations and stuff. But, you know, we announced the Evan Neal signing, I believe it was Wednesday, the first day.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and so I don't know how much time that he had to potentially talk to other teams, but the interest in bringing him back, it didn't like just start because no other team wanted him. So as Paul mentioned, and as you mentioned, Coach Harbaugh wanted him here. He saw his physical tools and, you know, saw whatever he might have seen on tape, flashes of tape over the last 4 years, and said, this kid has got something. I'm not ready to just give up on him. He was the 7th overall pick for a reason. He is, I don't even want to say potentially, he is the biggest person on this team, size-wise. I think we could still mold him and turn him into a functional, solid, contributing offensive lineman. So, and if you look at the details of the reported details of the contract, it's not like it's a huge risk on the Giants' end to try to bring him back. Worst case scenario, if it is very clear during training camp it's not working out, then they can make the decision if they choose to move on before the final 3 cut-down day. So this is sort of a low-risk and potentially high-reward situation that there's no reason not to roll the dice on.
I mean, I think the other surprise to this is that Evan Neal actually wanted to come back. Some guys will just say, let me have a change of scenery. Let me just start fresh.
I wonder what Coach said to him to convince him.
And
I have no idea.
That was big of him to come back.
Sure it was.
There's another person in that locker room he needs to listen to because everything you were saying is correct, Matt. Is another one. If you go back and listen to the interviews, Illuminor, the other one is Pat Ricard. Listen, these guys that they're bringing in are talking from the heart. If you actually listen to how they're speaking and what they're speaking about, they're talking from the heart. And he talked about how Harbaugh have believed in him and stuck with him. For all those years, he was a defensive tackle, moved into the fullback position, and Harbaugh helped him with that. And my final thing to this whole thing is everybody needs somebody to believe in them, and especially when you're talking at this level of what they're playing. They're playing a game, what they're playing are really at a high-level game, and you just need somebody to believe in you. And once you get that head coach believing in you, that can begin something wonderful for him. So I'm rooting for Evan Neal, and thank God for Harbaugh, who's actually saying he believes in him. So
Yeah.
All right,
That's what
Coach.
I had, guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Appreciate it.
I'll give you another name, and I know at this point it seems like ancient history, but let's not forget how Andrew Thomas's career started. And I know we've pointed to Andrew Thomas in the past while talking about Evan, but I feel like it's been a few years, really.
Yeah.
But Andrew Thomas, the first year as a rookie, it was bad, and he got criticized by everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Year 2, he did improve, but not nearly to the level that anyone hoped or expected. And it wasn't until, I believe it was year 3, that he made that first, the real big jump into the Andrew Thomas we're now accustomed to seeing. So now, obviously, Evan Neal is a little bit further down the road than that, but maybe this new coaching staff coming in is going to help revitalize his career. Again, there's really no downside to at least trying, because he's got the physical tools. If he could put the physical tools together with, whatever you want to call it, the mindset, the football feel, whatever it is, this guy still could be, at the very least, a contributing solid offensive lineman, if not better.
Well, a lot of personnel and coaches always will say, they're like, they don't make that many men on the planet who have exactly that frame.
Yeah.
So, you're not going to be that quick to just toss him aside if you don't have to.
Yeah.
Jason in New Haven, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, Matt and Paul, how you guys doing?
Hi, what's up?
How are you, Jason?
Good. I just want to say I love the banter with you two earlier. It was pretty good. So.
We always get along too well. I thought we got to switch it up a little bit.
This one was unnecessary. I'm sorry. I really am. I'm sorry.
It was fun.
Paul, it's been a long week for me, all right?
Me too.
All right. I love the Calvin Austin signing. Slot receiver. Reported signing with Calvin Austin, another slot receiver. He had I think he ran like a 4.3 when he came out in the draft or in the combine a few years ago. So he has some speed, he has some talent.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't had the best quarterback help since he got to the Steelers. I mean, he had Kenny Pickett, he had
Justin Fields,
the young man from the Jets. He was just at the Jets.
Justin Fields.
Yeah, and Russell
Justin
Wilson.
Fields, old Aaron Rodgers. So, hey, maybe they're banking on his upside with Dart. Maybe they can unlock something. Harbaugh saw him in the division twice a year, so maybe Harbaugh said, hey, he has some talent. Let's see if we can unlock him a little bit in the offense. So I particularly liked it. Another thing, I love that Harbaugh and Shane are giving Neal another shot, man. I really do like this move. Now, it could just be, hey, we're going to see what you could do come spring and summer camp. And if you don't, play to our standards and practice and train to our standards, you're out of here. But, if you can play and you show some effort, because I think he'll be a guard. I think that's what they brought him back for. To me, he's not our best lineman, but to me, watching some tape of him and being a Giants fan, I think he's probably our best run-blocking offensive lineman. I've seen him displace a lot of defenders in the run game since he was drafted. His issue has just been balance and health and confidence. I think it's confidence. A lot of these young kids, Banks, a few of these other guys, Anubin. I just think a lot of the losing and the fans dumping on them, the media dumping on them. I think it can affect some of these. And I'm not making an excuse, but these guys are in their early 20s. I mean, what were we all doing in our early 20s? And to be taking that kind of beating up. And I'm not saying they're not at fault with their playing and maybe some of their ribbing of the fan base as well, but. I like that. I like that Harbaugh's giving these guys a chance, and to sign a Ricard, bringing back Neal. Hopefully, we bring back a GVR or somebody of that ilk. To me, what it looks like to me is happening is come fall time, that first game. I think Harbaugh wants a rough, tough, physical, punch you in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing with Tremaine Edmonds, big, rangy linebacker. I'm hoping I think they will. I think they'll address maybe another D tackle in another wave of free agency. But that's the kind of feel I'm getting, a bigger slot target with Likely, who kind of not replace Wandale, but kind of that position in a way. He's 6'4", 240. So I really think we're going to be a physical team. And that's what the Giants have been in our heyday, in our Super Bowl runs. We just We lined up, we strapped up our helmets, and we just hit you for 60 minutes. And whoever the best man is at the end of the day wins the game. Last point. I know I talked to Paul and John the other day. I know, Matt, you weren't on the call. And I talked to Paul and John about the prospect. I wasn't saying I'm necessarily banging the table, but the prospect of Love at 5. And my question is to you guys, we hear from GMs, coaches, media, draft analysts, people with other teams. When you're drafting that high, do you draft for need? Do you draft for BPA, right? And my question is, and it may be a rhetorical question, but I don't know in this draft, like I talked to Paul a few days ago, Matt, if we are, and, I know Paul heard this, so I don't want to go too long-winded about it, but if we are to believe this draft is devoid of blue-chip players, if Love is there at 5, would you be, and I know Paul's answer, and I'm fine with Paul's answer, but Matt, if Love is there at 5 and there's no blue-chip players, and he's one of the blue-chip players, right, would you consider taking him, granted that we don't have a wide receiver 2, but if Love and what John Harbaugh was saying, I'm looking for a gold jacket player, regardless of position. From what he said in his interview, I believe, with another radio station, what would you feel about that, man? I know it's a really hot topic now, and that's not even to say Love isn't even going to be at 5, but I just wanted to hear what you had to say, Matt, about that. If Love is there and he's a blue chip talent, if we're saying we're taking blue chip players regardless of position, what would you feel about it? And I'll take your answers off the air. Paul, I know you answered already, but I just want to hear Matt's answer. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you for the call. Well, for starters, obviously it is March 13th today, but from what I have been reading reports, the early buzz, I don't know if he is even getting past the Titans at 4, because from what I've read, it sounds like the former head coach here, Brian Dable, is fully in love with him. So we'll see if he even is available at 5. But to me, look, you definitely need to consider best player available, period, when you get on the clock, when you have the 5th overall pick. But that being said, right now, and, maybe I'm too much in, the Giants bubble, but I feel pretty good about the running back duo of Cam Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy. I think especially with the addition of Pat Ricard at fullback, what defense is going to want to have to face Pat Ricard and Cam Scadaboo running at them 20, 25 times a game? No one. No one's going to want that, because that is probably the most, I know not every team has a fullback, but the most physical duo between a running back and a lead blocker that's not an offensive lineman that you're going to find around the NFL. And obviously, John Harbaugh wants to run the football and stop the run. He made that abundantly clear from day one here. Mm-hmm. And so, personally, I would like to see that 5th pick used on a different position, even if we're going to talk about taking a player at a position that's not necessarily a screaming big need. I would rather, depending on how the first 4 picks go, someone on the defensive side of the ball, like Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. Again, we were just saying, linebacker after the moves made this week is not a screaming need anymore at 5, but Sonny Styles, I think, is right up there with Jeremiah Love in terms of some of the most talented players in this draft. And same with Caleb Downs. I'm not even bringing up Arvil Reese because I don't think there's much of a chance he even gets to 5. But
I don't think so either.
If he somehow did, he would be in the conversation too. I would just rather use that 5th pick on one of those elite, same sort of either blue chip or very close to blue chip caliber of prospect on the defensive side of the ball, rather than Jeremiah Love. As good as Jeremiah Love is, and he is fantastic, I think he is, in terms of pure talent, one of the best 3 players in this draft, I would say. But if the third, let's say he's the third best player in terms of talent, if you have to decide using your 5th pick on the 3rd best player or maybe the 5th best player, but the 5th best player is a position that is much more of a need than the position of the 3rd best player, I'd rather take the one that's maybe a slot or 2 further down my draft board, but has a better chance of stepping in and being a day 1 starter, contributor, key player right away, and not push other guys that I think are talented players to the bench, because then it's sort of like, well, what are you doing? What's Tyrone Tracy going to do if the Giants were to take Jeremiah Love
Exactly.
at 5? I don't think he's going to play much. And
Exactly.
I just think I'm not saying Tyrone Tracy is, an all-pro running back, but he's shown that he is more than capable of helping a team's rushing attack and being the sort of 1B to a team's 1A.
John and I went through this with him last week, and for everything that you just said is exactly how John and I hashed it out. And I wouldn't take him at 5, John wouldn't take him at 5, and you've now said the same thing.
Also, just to add, not that this is the main part of the debate, but you also got to keep in mind, with the 5th overall pick, that's a fully guaranteed contract for 4 years that you're now giving to a running back, which would, and we saw this when the Giants took Saquon Barkley in 2018, would instantly make him one of the more higher paid running backs in the NFL right out of the gate.
And it's throwing cash in a redundant spot.
Yeah.
It really is, because you have no choice but to then play him and take snaps away from 2 guys who are good.
Yeah. I mean, that is a position that I would be, more than open and interested in adding someone at some point in the draft, as you mentioned before. But at the 5th pick, for me, it's just a little too rich given the depth at that position already and sort of the lack of top-end depth at other positions.
All right. Let's see what we could do about getting to another phone call here. And we've got Roberto in Florida. You're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
All right. How are you?
Good. How are you?
First of all, yeah, good. I'd like to thank Mr. Marvin because, pretty much lost for words after he got done. Well, but before I start, if you get another brownout, right, you and Matt need to hug it out. And
oh, no, we're good. We're good.
We're all good.
Yeah, I know. But, Paulie, you did instigate Matt into that discussion. But listen, Coach Marvin was pretty much on point. Listen, I don't see offensive line, defensive line going anywhere to at least the 4th, maybe the 5th, because of the simple reason, right? Listen, I'm a big fan of Ricard. I've seen the tapes. Ricard is an incredible blocker for the running game. He's got very soft hands, good hands, right? So he can catch the ball, he can run the ball, and he can go out and block in the perimeter, right? So let's say Love is available for the 5th one overall. Is there something that could be done? Like, remember the Drew Brees and Eli Manning situation? That may be one point that I'm interested in because you guys got all the knowledge. Also, with all I couldn't believe the size of a shopping cart the New York Giants were now in this free agency. And another thing, I don't think Coach Harbaugh and Joe went out and got all these people for them to sit on the bench. A lot of these guys are not bench players. So what does that do? Like, I'm lost for words because Coach Marvin took everything I wanted to ask. But you know what? You still got, let's say you get a healthy Thomas. You get a very healthy Illuminor, right? You still got Marcus Bowe. Now they signed, I already forgot his name. I don't know the situation with Van Roden, right? I don't know. I haven't heard from him much. But in the 5th, if Styles is available and Downs is available, that's be my main focus because remember, Dart can give you an extra 5 seconds to get open. And you know how hard it is for a corner to stay with a wide receiver for 5, 6, 7 seconds back there. So Sonny Styles and Downs will be my even if Bill Reeves is available, I'll go defense. I don't know about you guys, but I leave my curiosity to you guys, and with that, I like to sign off. I know you got a lot of callers.
Okay, Roberto.
So, yeah, you guys are famous. So, listen, I leave with that. So, God bless you both, and
thank you.
Thank you, Roberto.
You know, ultimately, whether or not Love is there at 5, and I think there's certainly a chance that, you know, Brian Daboll's influence in Tennessee is going to say, hey, this quarterback really needs a running game to help balance it out. I mean, look what Saquon Barkley did for Daniel Jones the year the Giants went to the playoffs in 2022. It was a big deal to have that guy.
Yeah.
So I could understand if Brian Daboll is banging his fist on the table and saying, hey, this guy could really help out our quarterback take it to the next step. I could see that. So I don't think that's out of the question. I don't.
No, I mean, if you just want to look at reports, which obviously, again, we're a month and a half away from the draft, a lot can and will change, but a lot of the reports, and these are at least some coming from people in the Nashville area that obviously are following and covering the tight ends, seem to say that Brian Daboll, I think the quote I saw was in full bloom love with Jeremiah Love. So it may not even be a conversation. It may not be a discussion. He might just be off the board at 5, which, again, obviously we feel like that wouldn't be the worst thing, because then one of the, Fernando Mendoza is going 1. If Love is going 4, then that means only 2 other players getting taken before the Giants pick. And based on all the other players that are available at the top of the draft, that's going to push a really, really talented player, one more really talented player down to be on the board available for the Giants.
If it's the 2 edge rushers, which it could be.
It could.
It very easily could be the 2 edge rushers. You might be looking at Styles, Downs, and Tate.
Yeah.
You could be.
If that ends up happening, you can't
Dan
go wrong.
Solomon's going to go nuts.
Well, yes, until they take someone that's not one of those 3 Ohio State players, then he will not be too happy. But, yeah, I mean, look, if those 3 guys are all on the board, in my opinion, you can't go wrong taking any of them.
Don't forget, folks, the Giants Huddle podcast has all types of interviews with Giants people as well as NFL dignitaries, long-form interviews, all kinds of information, really good stuff about what's going on with free agency, the rosters, the draft. It's all there on the Giants Huddle. Draft season also that John does with Tony Pauline and some other draft experts. That stuff is always fun to listen to. Anything new come up in the last 24 hours?
So I don't think John or anyone has been focused on so much so the podcast necessarily, just because of all of this different free agent content that we've had. But John did sit down with several of the new free agent signings, the new players in the building. His interview with Tremaine Edmonds is up. Mm-hmm. His interview with Isaiah Likely is up. He also did one with Jermaine Illuminor. Obviously, he's not new, but Jermaine did sit down with John for a few minutes in the studio. So all those one-on-one interviews are up. We have highlight videos for every free agent signing from the last couple of days. Those are all up. We're churning out so much content upstairs and in the production studio down here. So make sure to check it out. We have got art between Dan and I. We've been writing articles all week.
You got sprained fingers?
Pretty much, yeah. And eyes, because I've been looking at my 2 laptops for like 14 hours a day since Monday. So, yeah, just go on to the Giants website, Giants app, peruse around. There's so much content up there. Definitely
and you'll get Greg Newsome the second, because I sat down with him earlier today. So I don't know when that's going up.
We have not gotten that yet,
but that's going to be cut up.
That will be up, yep.
Giants TV, by the way, this is a good time to remind you of this as well, because there's a lot of fun stuff there. It's the official connected TV streaming app, original video content, highlights, fun stuff on demand. It's free on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. Did we have any YouTube comments that we really want? Oh, Aiden wants to hear me sing. Well, that's not happening today, okay?
What about dance? 11 Imani said, well, have you seen him dance?
No, not going to do that either. What do we have here? 11 Imani says, just opened up $15 million today. There was a report by SpotRack That is one of the websites online that really does a nice job. Again, it's unofficial. Nothing that they say is authorized or official, but they do a nice job of unofficially trying to compile the economics of the game. They did report, and again, the Giants never discuss contractual information. Let's make that very clear. So we're not confirming this, but just to give you a little bit of an idea of how the Giants were able to bring all of these bodies in addition to retaining a bunch of bodies, the Spot Rack report is that Brian Burns was able to convert some of his contractual money into a bonus and just push the money forward, so he has it now in hand. It doesn't change his earning potential at all. It just means the money is coming to him quicker, and he gets it handed to him in a big lump.
And the cap hits for the Giants, correct, towards the salary cap. That is what would get changed there.
Yes, and supposedly, according to Spot Rack's calculations, it's about $15 million that they were able to open up. Almost every player that I have ever heard get offered that opportunity to just shift money into a bonus has taken it. I can't tell you the last time I heard of a player who didn't take that, because they like to have the cash in hand. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't. Do they even have a choice if a team wants to do it?
John said to me he thought a year or two ago that it was put into the CBA that a team can just do it.
Yeah.
I thought I read that last year. Yeah, years ago it was not. You had to get permission with the player to do it. Nowadays, again, the CBA is so complicated. It's worse than watching a map on the computer and trying to figure out every single street and parkway and turnpike. Oh, it's nuts.
Yeah, and additionally, just there are guys that roster cuts are still available. Salary cap saving moves are, probably still will happen. I don't think we don't need to talk about ones that might happen moving forward, but you guys are welcome to, take your guesses, but there will be more moves made to clear up, some cap space one way or another in the coming, days, weeks, months.
Iman Perry says Harbaugh is building a bully team. He certainly is trending in that direction with a lot of what he has done, and schematically, I'm sure that's going to wind up being what we will see as well. Richard Roberts, P4K, says, have the Giants ever won a Super Bowl without a fullback? No, they have not. The Picard signing should really help the offense. He can even play offensive tackle.
Oh, speaking of that, I'm glad this was brought up because I was very excited when Dan Salamone told me that he was reaching out to this person, but Dan was able to call up Henry Hynoski, the Rhinoceros, and had a one-on-one interview with him, and he asked him about the Pat Ricard signing. The article is up on Giants.com. I highly recommend giving it a read. Henry Hynoski is awesome. He's become a quote machine. His days as a principal, I guess now he's front and center talking all the time. He gave so many good quotes. My favorite thing about this, there is a fullback group text with Henry Hynoski, Mike Allstott, Lorenzo Neal, just to name a few of the big guys, and Pat Ricard is part of that group text.
Oh, wow.
So when the news came out that Ricard was signing with the Giants, apparently that group text started blowing up. And, Henry Hynoski told Dan, who wrote this in the article, more into details. He also...
That's great.
Henry talked about, similarities he sees between John Harbaugh and Tom Coughlin, similarities he sees between Cam Skattebo and Ahmad Bradshaw, and going beyond just the number 44. So that is up on Giants.com. I highly recommend, if you're going to read one thing this week, one article, at least on our website, let it be that one. It is a great read. Won't take more than a couple minutes.
Harbaugh is strictly an old school football kind of guy. His father, Jack, was a lifer, and his two sons have clearly adopted so much of what he read in Football 101. And, the bottom line is, folks, if the Giants power the ball in behind a whole bunch of beef from the 5-yard line, you're going to cheer just as loudly as if they threw a touchdown pass.
100%. And just real quick on that matter, we've spoken a lot, obviously, about Ricard, the Illuminor, the wanting to run the football, which clearly is an emphasis, but stopping the run as well. And I think we saw that immediately on day one with the signing of Tremaine Edmonds, who is, he's a good all-around linebacker, but he excels at stopping the run.
His frame, 6'4", 250.
Yeah.
That's a bulky frame.
I just wanted to point it out. Like, I know a lot of the conversation has been on the offensive side of the ball with establishing the run. Well, it is clear that stopping the run is just as important as well, especially given how this team has struggled to do that the last couple of years.
All right, we are nearly out of time. It's starting to run out, the sands in the hourglass, so we're going to try to go really quick through these final 3 calls. John in Cape Cod, you're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Love the way you two play off each other. It's a perfect combination.
Even if we don't understand each other sometimes, right?
That's not always a bad thing, when you're on the tube like that.
Sometimes we just want to have fun anyway, right? Go ahead.
It's a lot better than listening to the shock jocks,
That's
I just
good.
want to say in the draft, I would not be disappointed if the Giants took a real good thumper at linebacker. Next item, if you remember, Paul, about 5 weeks ago on your show here, I said I hope and think that Harbaugh would, in free agency, would take Patrick Ricard.
Right.
And they lived up to my expectations. I'm not prescient, but I've been watching the Giants at the stadium since Charlie Connerly was a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I think John Harbaugh is bringing back Parcells-style football. It's a follow-the-leader game in pro football, and everything old is new again. And in the Northeast and in their conference, you have got to run the ball after Thanksgiving. And they're setting up to do just that. I like the fact they picked up Likely because I think the tight end game has become very important. And the Giants have a history of game-changing tight ends. I've seen Mark Bavaro, Jeremy Shockey. I thought that the next good one was going to be Hank Ballard. And unfortunately, he got grabbed by Belichick, and then he had a career-ending injury. But tight ends are invaluable, especially the ones that can block as well as catch the ball.
John, the tight end signing of Likely, and I'll let you finish your statement in just a second, but I think it's important to interject one thing here about Likely, who is a pass-catching tight end more so than he is a blocker. He is a slot tight end, okay? 70-something% of his snaps last year were in the slot. Again, Matt Nagy's the Giants' new offensive coordinator. He was the OC in Kansas City where they used Travis Kelce as a slot tight end. So you're going to see a lot of Kelce's plays run for Likely. But here's why that move indicates physicality. Because now it makes it more likely if the Giants want to use a 3 tight end set, they can do it because of the guys that they have now on the roster. And a slot tight end, by his very nature, is bigger and more physical than a shrimp slot receiver is.
You're right.
Yeah.
So goes that over the middle.
Yes, and so that indicates an extra level of physicality, even if he is not a bulldozing tight end like George Kittle, who is known for his roughhousing. So. It still applies. Everything you said about having more physicality, even when you sign a receiving tight end, it applies.
Yeah, I mean, look, day one, it was the first move the Giants made was agreeing to a deal with Isaiah Likely. I think that shows that obviously they're going to run a lot more 2 tight end sets, which again, that automatically is going to be more physical having a second tight end out there rather than a small slot receiver.
Not to mention blocking at the second level too for the running back.
100%. So yeah, I agree. It just shows that this physicality is an emphasis.
You're absolutely right, guys. And in pro football like that, part of the job is keeping the defense guessing. And when you've got a good receiver in the slot who can block after a fashion, doesn't have to be a Ballard type blocker, but he can go over the middle and clear out a linebacker on a running play as well. And that's what they're building. I was sorry to see one of my favorite high effort guys go. Bellinger.
I know.
But I think it was a numbers game, and I think Brian Daboll didn't waste any time in grabbing him because he knew the value of a guy like him on the team.
John, we got to run. I only got a couple of more calls to go here. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Gary in Virginia, you're next on the show. Hello. Gary?
Hey, Paul, Matt, how you guys doing?
Hi, we're doing okay.
How are you, Gary?
Got a couple of quick ones. One is about the O-line. Might be a little greedy, but I'd like to see them get GVR, and I'd love to see Zeitler on the team. I know he's a little older, but he played great last year, and, talk about bully ball. That's who you want.
I mentioned him the other day. Zeitler, you'll remember this, Matt. You were here with Zeitler, right?
Yep.
Okay. Zeitler would walk through the halls, sometimes going to the lunchroom, practicing his pass sets. This guy is, you talk about love football. He is psycho love football. Yeah. And then he would get there into the lunchroom, and he'd be waiting online to get his food, and there he'd be doing a pass set. And it's, Kevin, you okay? Yeah, I'm just practicing. He is like, I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a football to sleep at night and puts it under the pillow. The dude is all in. I brought him up, a week ago. I don't know. Harbaugh had him in Baltimore for a year. I don't know what he thinks about him. I don't know at 34, how much he has left. But 36. I thought, is he 36 now?
Yep.
Yeah. I think from what I saw last year, it looks like he's still got something. And I know he wants to play another year. But I would talk to him if it were me.
Yeah, look, I mentioned it before, real quick. There's a crop of guards that are still available. If you look, they're all on, I guess, what you would consider the wrong side of 30. But I think as we learned with what happened with Andrew Whitworth years ago, don't let that stop you from signing someone if you think they even got a little bit of good football left in them. But there's Kevin Zeitler. Wyatt Teller is still available. Joel Patino is still available.
Austin Corbett on the cheaper side, too.
GVR, obviously, as you mentioned. So it is still entirely possible that a veteran guard gets added. We have no idea, but it is possible, and there's a good crop that's still out there.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing was I want Sonny Styles. I think it's time for us to draft a linebacker first round, but put him with Edmonds would be so nice for the defense. But I was thinking about Love. I know a lot of guys are saying if he's there, and then one thought I had was if you had Love and Scatterboo, you could put Tracy at the slot. I know it's unconventional, but
don't do that, Gary. Don't screw around with him. He's got a good career going as a running back. Why would you want to mess him up?
No, he is good. I know.
But I look, Styles. I think Styles has got to be in play at 5 if he's there, because Micah McFadden, unless I'm mistaken, and again the Giants don't release numbers, I think he himself said he took a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, again coming off the injury. Yeah. So what's so wrong about, you get Sonny Styles, he's a rookie.
Yeah.
He's going to have to learn anyway. You got Micah McFadden here. All of a sudden, that's a very strong position if you draft Sonny Styles.
Look, I am obviously a lot can and will change again, as I said before, between now and the start of the draft. But right now, that is who I'm very much hoping is the pick at 5. Yeah. Nothing against some of those other guys we've discussed. Caleb Downs is great, but you look, the Giants have, I think, at the very least, solid depth at safety now between Javon Holland, Tyler Nubin, Ardarius Washington, and if the reports about Jason Pinnock are true, that's 4 solid, good to solid safeties you got there. Obviously, Caleb Downs adding would potentially be the best of the crop of those, but I think there might be more value to adding someone like Sonny Styles. I'm with you. I would love to see. When was the last time the Giants drafted a middle linebacker in the first round?
I don't think they ever did.
I think it might be time.
Yeah.
This is a guy you might want to pull the trigger on. I understand.
Especially after what he did in Indy the other week.
Gary, appreciate it. We got to get to one more call.
Thank you, Gary.
Len in Columbia, you're last on the program. We're squeezing you in.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Look, last year's roster was what it was. This year's cap situation is what it is. General managers get evaluated, and this may be the most important thing that they do, is spend the owner's money wisely, whatever's available, wisely.
Right.
And I think we're doing that. it may appear over these last 2 or 3 signings, every day low prices every day is Walmart's statement. And that's where we may be shopping, but that's where we have to shop at this point. But I can give you, I rationalize a positive reason to sign every one of their signings. They're not taking us to the Super Bowl, but I can put a positive light on any one of the guys that they signed. I think they're doing a good job. Here's what I want to have happen, guys. I'm not going to say this in terms of how many wins I want next year, whether we make the playoffs or not. Here's what has to happen next year. We have got to get out of 4th place. We've got to pass the Commanders. We've got to catch the Cowboys. And we want the Eagles looking back at us saying, we better do it this year or we're going to be in trouble in the future. We've got to make some progress, guys. And I'm hoping the coaching staff can bring this all together. Here's the 2 things that I fear. I'm going to stay in division now. How do we get ahead of the Commanders? How do we catch up to the Cowboys? Here's what I don't want to see, guys. It may fall out this way, but it doesn't. I don't want to see Bailey or Jeremiah Love on that Commanders roster next year. I don't want to face Love 10 times in the next 5 years. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And Bailey is the same way.
Len,
I don't want to see Styles. I don't want to see Styles on the Cowboys.
Hold on. Don't you have enough to worry about as to who the Giants take and who they have on their roster without adding to your stress level, worried about who's going to be on somebody else's team?
Paul, right now, they're picking up guys just like we are. We ain't making progress, Paul. We're not making progress.
I understand your point, but in all honesty, Len, seriously, if John Harbaugh has his way, and I think he'll do everything he can to have his way, this team is going to be competitive in the conversation in December. I think he made it clear at his first press conference that that's not unrealistic. And so, he's going to coach his butt off to give this team a chance. And
I'm hoping that's the case. Hey, you guys have a good weekend. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Len.
Thank you, Len. You too. I was just gonna say, I get Len's point, and neither one of us are gonna argue there. Obviously,
no.
That's been a goal for the last however many years.
I'm having fun with him,
closing the gap, but between the Giants and the other teams in the division. But we're at the time of year where you can't be worrying about what those teams are doing now.
No.
Come week 1. In the weeks that we are playing, those 6 games against the NFC East, you very much worry about what they're doing then. But March, April, you got to do what's best for the New York Football Giants and let the rest of the, chips fall as they may. What are you going to take someone just to prevent another team from taking them? Which I don't think Len was saying that. But you worry about improving the football Giants, and I think that started almost 2 months ago with the hire of John Harbaugh. Instantly, this team became better with that hire.
Yes.
No one's going to argue that. And then all the roster moves that have been made since are forming a team put together in the eyes of what John Harbaugh and Joe Schoen vision for the 2026 New York Giants and moving forward. And if you like the hire of John Harbaugh, you got to trust that he knows what he's doing now.
And, quite honestly, even the players and the teams that he was talking about, they may not even have a chance to get those guys. So why worry about it now?
Yeah, David Bailey, he could be the 3rd pick.
Could be the 2nd pick.
Or the 2nd pick, yeah. Jeremiah Love, we already talked. Could be the 4th pick. If either of those guys make it to 7 and the Commanders take them, that's great for Washington.
Full disclosure, and you may have done this too. Full disclosure, when John and I have sat at the table during the draft, and guys are coming off the board, and all of a sudden the Eagles or the Cowboys get up, but specifically when the Eagles get up on the board the last couple of years, they've had guys fall to them.
Yes.
That we're saying the clock is ticking, and we're like, oh no, that guy's there. They're gonna get that guy.
Take your pick of Georgia defenders that have fallen to the Eagles over the years.
That's the time to freak out. Okay,
Fair.
Not now.
You could hope, please don't take player X, but it's out of all of our control.
Or better yet, just say you want somebody to take Love earlier. You don't have to worry about saying, well, I hope they don't take him. No, just say Let them get off the board. Let them be gone by the time they get up, and that's the end of that.
And look, the reality is the Commanders, they're picking 7th. They are also going to get a extremely talented player with the 7th overall pick, just like the Giants are going to get one at 5. It's just the way the draft is.
You're right.
Ooh, the Titans are releasing L'Jarius Sneed. Schefter just tweeted that. It was a big signing from them not too long ago.
I was just going to say, what kind of money are they taking a hit on that with?
It says they'll save $11.4 million. Does not mention
the dead
cap hit. Can't imagine it's a small dead cap hit, though.
It can't be.
Was it last year or 2 years ago that they signed him?
I thought it was 2 years ago. But either way, that's going to be a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
Wow.
Again, that's another very good corner that's now hitting
While
the
he
market.
checks on that, I will just say we are joining you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. And before I sign off, what was his number?
Just over $8 million dead cap hit. There was a potential out this offseason. So
okay, that makes it a little easier.
That's not too bad of a dead cap hit, honestly.
You can digest that.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it. This entire program is available with our entire podcast network on the archive, the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, at giants.com/podcasts. This has been Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Matt CItak, I'm Paul Dottino. That's it for today's show, folks. We will be back again on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.